The college football regular season just finished last weekend, and it was nearly upset central, but all the top dogs secured the W's. Welcome back to Penn State Sports Night. I'm Gianna Cutaia, joined by Ethan Ellis and Mitchell Corcoran. And tonight we will be deep diving into the craziest games from last week. To start off, guys, we have to talk about the rivalry game of the weekend. Michigan, Ohio State. Michigan won 30-24, but it was a close game. What did you guys see in that game?
Yeah, it really was a close game, but Michigan now is 3-0 in the past 3 years in the game. And obviously, anytime these two teams play each other, it's going to make headlines everywhere. And this was no exception. I mean, realistically, the winner of this game goes to the Big Ten Championship. The winner of this game basically gets an automatic berth in the college football playoffs. And once again, Michigan stepped up to the table. And I think one of the biggest factors in this game was their running back, Blake Corum. 2 rushing touchdowns for him on the day. And really, I mean, he was just a force to be reckoned with in this game, but he's also going to be a force to be reckoned with in the Big Ten Championship and in the college football playoffs. I don't really see any defense that's going to be able to stop him. So, I mean, really, he's going to be an issue for every single team he plays in this offseason.
Yeah, I completely agree. My biggest problem was that I don't think Ohio State has the QB situation figured out yet. I think that Kyle McCord's just been average with an all-star cast around him. I mean, you have Marvin Harrison Jr., potential top 5 pick, Emeka Egbuka, future first rounder, maybe second rounder, Travion Henderson, Cade Stover, the list goes on. And he's just been pretty average, and you saw that in the Michigan game. But my biggest takeaway was that Michigan, I think, is going to win the national championship. I think they are the best team in college football. I think they have the best offensive line. Their offense can win different ways, like we saw against Penn State. They ran the ball the entire second half. J.J. McCarthy made big throws against Ohio State. They have a great defense, maybe the best defense in the country. Everything about them just shouts national championship team to me.
And one thing from this game that we have to talk about is Ryan Day. And now there's been a lot of rumors going around online and a lot of hot takes. And honestly, I think he has an at least warm seat. I don't think it's outrageous to say that. I think this mainly comes from how the fans feel. And fans in college football, I mean, to be frank, they're delusional sometimes. But at the same time, college football programs are at the mercy of their fans. So if the fans are angry with Ryan Day, then something may have to change. And obviously, this is a long way away. We are in no way saying that he is on the hot seat, but it's definitely warm. I mean, this is not something you saw Urban Meyer do, I'll say that.
Well, the thing is about Ryan Day, he's 56-7 in his career. That's pretty darn impressive. Yeah, sure, he hasn't won the big games, but it's so incredibly difficult for college coaches to have accomplishments like winning those big games. And I mean, he's a great recruiter, great offensive coach. I don't see how you could fire him, and I don't know who you would get to replace him either.
I absolutely agree with you guys. And Mitchell, I agree with you. Michigan's just hungry, and I do see them winning the national championship. But moving on, the Iron Bowl, one of the almost biggest upsets, Auburn, Alabama, went all the way down to the wire. Auburn had the game. They had it in their hands. And at the end, Alabama took it away from them. What went wrong and what went right in that game?
Well, Auburn had a dominant showing in this game, and then it all just melted away with that one 30-plus yard pass touchdown we saw at the end. But really, I've never seen a team collapse like we saw Auburn do in that game. And really, I think once the pressure got to them, no one was able to step up to the plate for them. Their offense wasn't able to get anything going. And, I mean, it's amazing, honestly, to see how just one muff punt can completely derail a team. And that's exactly what happened here. I mean, Auburn basically had this game in the bag. They would need a couple more offensive plays after the punt, but they really just need to run out the clock here, and they couldn't even do that with the muff punt. And then we saw them, of course, when they got the ball back, throw the pick 6 to end the game. So really just a bad showing by Auburn. But Alabama, I mean, the reason why they almost got upset was the offensive line. I mean, especially in the fourth quarter, their quarterback was running for his life. And, I mean, that's completely to blame on the offense. They were almost like the turnstiles you see at, like, a sports game or something, letting everyone and anyone through.
Yeah, I'm just going to give a quick shout-out to Hugh Freeze. I mean, I know it was an absolutely brutal loss for Auburn. I mean, like, who puts on a QB spy on 4th and goal from the 31? But other than that, I thought his offense has improved so much ever since he's taken over play calling duties. They were in a 7-point game with Georgia, lost by Bama by 3. They rushed for over 200 yards in both those games. And if you look at the roster, I'm going to be blunt, it's not very impressive. So what he is doing with that roster, I think he deserves a lot of credit for that. Back to the Alabama offensive line, you said it, they've been bad, but they've been atrocious all season. They're allowing a sack on nearly 13% of its offensive snaps, which is 130th in the country. And for perspective, there's only 133 FBS teams. And then I'd like to give out another shout out to Jalen Milroe, who has to deal with the offensive line. He's a big reason why Alabama came back in that game. He has improved so much since the beginning of the season. He's got a huge arm. His running ability is just so impressive. I think he will be a Heisman favorite going in the next season.
Definitely some great points there. Let's move on quickly. I want to go to the Battle of Georgia. Georgia versus Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech had the lead 3 times in that game, but ultimately the Bulldogs came out on top. What did you guys see in that game real quick?
Yeah, it really seemed like Georgia was almost toying with Georgia Tech. I mean, they did make them nervous a little, but Georgia was never really on the hot seat of being upset. And really, I think they have this man, Kendall Milton, to credit. 18 carries, 156 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, he's going to be dangerous in this offseason, and he's going to be probably a favorite to go for insane stats when it comes to the college football playoffs and maybe the college football championship. So the sky's the limit for him and this Georgia offense.
Yeah, I'm not too concerned about Georgia. I think they're still an elite team. They kind of stumbled at some points. But back to Kendall Milton. He's getting hot at the right time. This is his second 100-plus yard rushing game and second multi-touchdown game. Georgia wants to be successful in these huge games coming up. They need to be able to run the football, and I think they'll be able to do that with Kendall Milton.
And another quick shout-out to Georgia Tech's quarterback, Haynes King. I mean, he had 2 rushing touchdowns, and he's really what kept them in this game. So great showing by Georgia Tech, but just not enough to beat the #1 Bulldogs.
Now to finish up the last big game, Washington versus Washington State. Washington State dominated. Washington's undefeated, but they came to win with a field goal, which was incredible by Grady Gross. And I think the best part about it was he was rewarded a scholarship after winning that game for them to keep the undefeated season. So quickly, what were your thoughts on that game?
Well, Washington really has been good this season, but they have not been dominant. Most of their games, in fact, I think it was their past 8 games, they've won by 10 or fewer points. Washington is overrated in my opinion, and really I think that that's going to be exposed this coming week in the Oregon game. But really I think that Washington just could not guard Washington State's pass. I mean, Washington State put up over 300 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, and really just a bad job overall by Washington. But if you thought that was nerve-wracking or bad, just wait until they play Oregon this week.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for a team with a defense like this to succeed against Oregon. They allow 400 yards per game, which is 84th in the country. And against Oregon, Oregon is second in the country in yards per game with 541. And like what you mentioned before about all the close games, I think all of that, Washington's going to end up crumbling. I think their historic season comes to an end in Las Vegas.
Absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see how everything plays out. It was a crazy end to the regular season, and there is still more to look forward to in college football. But for right now, that's all we have for you tonight. For Ethan Ellis and Mitchell Corcoran, I'm Gianna Cutaia.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning into this edition of Penn State Sports Night.
For more content like this, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, give us a like, and follow our socials down below.
And as always, we are
Penn State Sports Night.